Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Scott Garrett Show. I've called this show, Can You Be Led? Can you be led is one of the most fundamental questions that a man will ever ask a woman without ever speaking a word. If a man deems you to be uncooperative, he's not going to spend a lot of time with you. He's just going to move on. Because serious men, they move in concert with the nature of all things. Men in nature will always take the path of least resistance. But you have some men who act against their nature and they want a daily challenge at home. But then those same men, they complain about not being able to lead their wives. And they complain about all the turmoil that's going on in their homes and how she won't allow them to be a man. But they made a choice where when they have friends, these men's, our friendships are different. Our friendships are always built on accountability and honesty. So men, we won't let the fact that that man made a choice slip by in our discussions. We'll hold his feet to the fire and say, hey, you chose her. You knew exactly what she was like before you married her and you chose her. Where to the contrary, women's friendships are totally different. Women's friendships, they have blind support for each other no matter what that woman is doing most of the time in the name of love. Single women's friendships, one of the unique things that you find amongst single women is groupthink. Is they tend to have a whole group of people that they're around, and all of their decisions and all of their thoughts come down to what that group is thinking. When you engage in groupthink as a single woman, you're done. You're not going to find a man. And I'll tell you why. Because when you have groupthink, you have women saying things like, well, I can't find a man, or no man can handle me, or I can't find my equal. Once you engage in this type of groupthink, you won't find anybody, because the relationship issues can never be solved for a group. A relationship is the most personal thing you'll ever be involved in, is a one-on-one loving relationship with another person, and that's not something that can be solved in a group. Because every single person, that relationship for you has a specific roadmap. A roadmap so specific that no other person could follow it. So no group would ever be able to understand it and or follow it. Single women need to understand that you're special as a woman. And you're different than all the women around you. And you're so special that you deserve to have a man show and treat you how special you are. And in a group, you'll never see that, because he's not going to spend a bunch of time looking for you. If you choose to be single, that's one thing, and that's a personal choice. But if that is a personal choice, then so many people shouldn't be on TV saying that I choose to be single and it's a personal choice. And when I make a personal choice, I keep it personal. I don't make my personal choices public. So if you're really making the choice to be single, then people should know that that is a personal choice of yours. If you say things like, well, I'm a strong woman and I'm independent. If you're strong and you're independent, then don't say there's a shortage of men. Don't blame men because you're strong and you're independent. So be strong and be independent. What you find is, it really comes down a lot of times to choices. You made a choice to be with this guy or sleep with this guy or be in a relationship with this guy, whether he was good or bad. Nobody made those choices for you. And when you make choices, you have to deal with everything that comes with the choices that you make. If you make better choices, you get better results. It's not very difficult, but comes down to that. Better choices make better results. But what you find is conditioning. A lot of women have just been plain conditioned wrong. And part of that conditioning is you're around a lot of people who don't have men in their life, or have never had a good man in their life, And they don't even understand what a gift manhood is to a woman. A man will make you feel, a real good man will make you feel the way that nothing else in your life can. And that's a gift that a man will give you. But most men aren't going to give you that if you don't earn it or you don't deserve it. You can get sex, but you won't get that gift of manhood. You just will not. There's a very easy way to check and see if you've been conditioned this way. Think about this. If you hear a female friend, relative, or any woman who's married, if you're around her and you ask her a question and she says something like, well, I'm going to have to check with Bill on that. If just something as simple as her seeking not really approval, but checking with her mate, the way people in good relationships check with each other on different things, or if she tells you, I don't know how so-and-so is going to feel about that, and that's her husband. If just the fact that she's checking with her mate on something, if that makes you feel something when you hear a woman say that, like she's weak and this thing, if that makes you feel something, then you have been conditioned totally wrong. And you don't even understand a good relationship. When you think about everybody that you know who's married and in a good relationship, the one misnomer that women have is that it has anything to do with looks. It has a very, very, very small degree to do with looks. Because if it had to do with looks, Puffy would never cheat on J-Lo. All these beautiful Hollywood women, all their husbands wouldn't cheat. All these beautiful, athletes' wives, the man wouldn't cheat on them if it had anything to do with looks. Men are far more selective when it comes to the person who they're choosing to be in love with and have a family with. We look far beneath the surface when it comes to those things. Because if we didn't, the women who spend all the time in the beauty salons getting their hair and their nails done, they would always have a man. And more often than not, they don't. And they tend to be envious against the women that do. They talk about how fat these women are and how they have this and how they don't have that. And it's all about looks because they think that men are very surface driven like they've been taught. But it's not the case. And what it is flat out envy for women who have somebody. And that's really what it is. You have to stop making the excuses like, well, I'm so successful, men are intimidated by my success. The problem with that theory is when a man sees you, he doesn't know how successful you are. And unless you have, your 3 secretaries right there with you, or you have a butler there with you, or you have, what is it that you think you have that symbolizes success to the point where someone just looking at you can tell you're successful? I don't think that that's possible. And I think that that's an excuse, and that's a silly excuse to hide the fact that you're not able at this point in time to understand or attract the right type of male or a male at all. Because I'm going to tell you, the shortage of good man theory is an absolute hoax. And it's not a hoax perpetrated by men. It's a hoax perpetrated by women and perpetrated by marketing companies to get you to buy all of these products that are supposed to beautify you. And if you're beautified enough, you'll find that man. Not true. When I go to parent-teacher conferences and when I go to all types of events, those events are full of good men who love their kids and love their wives and loves their family. It's just full of them. Many more than when I was a kid. I know I would go to things with my mom, go to parent-teacher conferences, and it would be pretty much everybody with their mom. You might see 1 or 2 dads, but I think that has changed. Now men are understanding that we have to be more involved in our families, more involved in education, and we can't just come home and drop a paycheck down and then think that we've done our jobs. So I think really over the last probably 30 years, women have done a fantastic job in making sure that men are more engaged in the rearing of their children. And that's something that single moms have done and married women have done. So there is some progress in that way. But we still have a long way to go, because now we have a lot of women who, instead of deciding to make a change in their life, they'd rather make excuses for their life. And that's a problem. Men will love what you have naturally. Not what you can buy, it's what you have naturally. Because anybody can buy a bunch of things, but you can't buy class. Men love a woman with class. You can't buy trust. They love a woman that they can trust. And those are huge things. If a man thinks you have class and he can trust you, that's a great start. But it really comes down to you. When you decide that you're good enough for yourself, there'll be plenty of men out there to decide you're good enough for them. Single ladies, take a good look at the women around you that have been single for a long time. Humans are engineered to want to find love and find relationships. And when people don't find love, they seek conflict. And think about all the conflict that comes around a bunch of women who have not found love. This is one man's opinion. Comment on it, positive and negative. That's fine. Because I want to see you grow. And I believe that everybody should be happy. And I think everybody has the potential to be happy. But at some point, you have to break the conditioning. And you have to say, if I want something different, it's going to require me to do something different, think of myself differently, and then I'll take different actions. And through those different actions, you'll get different results. I'd like to thank you and look forward to my series of show on surviving divorce and coming out the other side and finding love. Thank you and good night.